It is incredible how when somebody finds a new technique, we all wonder how we have overlooked it. In this episode, you will learn a new technique to exploit accesses that are difficult to exploit otherwise, and maybe you wouldn't even report them. It will be a guest appearance of Matan Berson, a 16-year-old who received over $150,000 of bounties just in the semi-final and final of the Ambassador World Cup 2023, and also the Best New Hacker Award. Also, I want to thank TikTok and HackerOne for making it possible for me to record content from the Creator Corner from Bug Bounty Village during DEF CON. Enjoy! Hello, Matan. So tell us, what bug are you going to walk us through today?
So this is some bug I found a few weeks ago, maybe. So some self-XSS bug that I managed to exploit and turn it just into a regular one-click ATO. It was very fun because it's pretty complicated, but we're gonna walk through like the reasoning and stuff, so I hope it's gonna be easier to follow.
Yeah.
I mentioned it on the Critical Thinking podcast, but we're gonna be like going into a bit more detail here.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it really is based on like a real bug, so it should be pretty applicable to the real world. Okay.
Yeah, so how did it start? What did you find first?
Yeah, so first I found some self-XSS. I'm not gonna get too much into the detail of that because I don't want to have the target be like figured out. But I found just some self-XSS on some random page that nobody will ever visit. And then I tried to get it to escalate the impact of it, basically. So we're gonna be talking about just how you can exploit self-XSS in general. Some easier techniques that would work like 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And then some more advanced techniques that I think invented. I haven't.
Yeah, I have
seen
not
it
heard
anywhere.
about this.
Yeah.
But
It's very cool.
let's start with the basic stuff. Like what is the default thing
Yeah.
you would do to show any impact of a
Yeah,
self-XSS?
so what I have done in the past, which worked for me always, but in that specific scenario, it didn't. Like it worked partially. What you usually do, because when you have a self-XSS, you can run JavaScript code in the origin of the application that you're trying to hack. You are running it in your malicious, like, attackers, the attacker's like user, the account, but you still are running malicious JavaScript code in the application's origin. So what you can usually do, first of all, if you want to exploit the self-XSS, you have to have some way of logging the victim into your account. Because you can't tell them, like, put in the email address of the attacker and the password. It's way too suspicious.
Yeah.
And so you need to have that for all of the methods that we're gonna talk about today. And then the easiest method that you can use, from the attacker's page, before you even start all of the attack, like logging the victim in, you open up a page to the application. And you need the page to have like as much sensitive info as possible.
So usually like a profile page settings page,
profile
something like
settings
this?
page, or if they have API keys, that's great.
Yeah, that's the
Open
best.
a page with the API key. But yeah, some page that has like a ton of sensitive info.
Yeah.
Transaction history, whatever. Then you open that page up. Now you log in CSRF them. I call it login CSRF, but it can be like different methods. Like
Yeah.
you can figure it out.
Yeah, it's fairly easy.
It's different for every target, but you can usually do that. And now, once they're logged into the attacker's account, you can make your XSS trigger because they're in the attacker's account, which has the payload. And now, once the XSS triggers, you have JavaScript running in the origin of the app.
Yeah.
And the window that you opened with all of this juicy sensitive info is in that same origin.
Yeah, it is.
So now, according to the browser's same origin policy, the browser doesn't differentiate between, oh, this window is on one account, this window is on another account. For the browser, it's all the same site. So you can just access that window,
Yeah.
and to make it a bit less theoretical, I can like explain what you can do. You just when you open the window, you can have some name attached to that window. So now after you log in CSRF them, you can open the same window like with the same name. So you run like window.open.
Yeah.
Then you give as the first argument, you give like an empty string
Yeah.
as the URL of the window. And then you specify in the second argument the same name. So now that open call will give you a reference to the same window you opened in the beginning.
I didn't even know this. When I
yeah.
exploited this, I just used the setup with window opener.
Yeah, yeah.
So I opened both from my website.
Yeah, you can do that. You can like
I
have.
didn't know this.
You can because it's scenario I was thinking about is like the attacker's window opens the vulnerable window and then redirects itself. And now, but you can also like have an attacker's window, then open another attacker's window. First window gets redirected, and then you have reference via opener.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's all the same. And now, when you have the reference, you can access just properties of the window. So like .document and liquid the DOM, stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's not bad because
that's not bad.
We can read some stuff.
Yeah,
but
you can read a lot of stuff. The problem is,
if
you're trying to shoot for the maximum impact, you want to also have a way to modify some information. And unless the page that has sensitive info has like an API key or something like that, you can't really do that.
Yeah.
Or some API key that didn't expire, you can't really do that because you can only leak information from the page. If you try to do anything in the page, it's gonna be done in like the attackers.
Exactly.
Because you already logged the victim out. This is where my sort of technique comes in.
Yeah.
This is a way to just take a self-XSS and with a few extra requirements. I mean, I think some requirements
not so hard to satisfy.
Yeah, not very hard to satisfy. I think it's very generally applicable.
Yeah.
In most scenarios. We're gonna talk about like the specific scenarios in a bit, but you can turn that self-XSS into just a normal XSS.
Yeah, and it's genius. So listen closely. It's genius and it's like applicable fairly.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be too hard to do. So
I don't know why it wasn't documented yet, because once you go through the actual logic of it, it seems like pretty,
Yeah, it does.
It makes sense.
It does, but
Maybe,
many techniques are like this once you see it.
Yeah,
like,
when you lay them out, it's easy, it seems easy to come up with. That's what I love about all the Portswigger research blogs. They write it out and you're like, oh, of course,
obviously.
But it takes like years.
It was here all the time.
Yeah, it was here all along.
Yeah.
So the like most simple, it's not so simple, but the most simple like variant of this is, and this is like pretty similar to the bug I found. The sort of logic behind this attack is you want to make the victim be logged into the attacker account, the attacker's account, but only in the specific page where you have the self-XSS.
Yeah.
If you can somehow shape the environment to have that happen, now when they're only logged into the self-XSS page, to the attacker's account in the specific page where you have self-XSS, then you can like do some other actions in all of the other pages.
Yeah, but the question is how to do it.
Yeah, okay. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
So the first part of this attack is similar. You just have to trigger the self-XSS.
Yeah.
So in this attack, we don't open a window before that. We just log the victim into the attacker's account. Then we trigger the self-XSS.
Yeah.
Great, we now have JavaScript execution in the malicious app, in the app that you're trying to attack.
Yeah. But the problem is the victim is now in our session, so...
Exactly. Now, what we do, with the cookies, an interesting thing you can do, when you set a cookie in some browser, in like the victim's browser in this example, you can specify a specific path for the cookie.
Yes.
So now the cookie will only get sent to the server if the browser is loading that specific path. So for example, you can set like /example, and now if they navigate to the app, to /example, or somehow when a request gets sent there, that request will have the cookie that you sent.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing about that is that that cookie will get specified first.
Yeah.
Because the more specific the path is, the higher it is in the priority. And usually what happens is the server only respects the first cookie. So now what we do is we sort of abuse this. We take the attacker session,
Yeah.
which we have access to, and then we set the session cookie. The name is gonna be different for every app, but we set the session cookie with the attacker session, and we specify in the path attribute only the path that, only like the page that has the self-XSS in it.
Yes.
So now, if we can somehow get the victim to log back into their account, when they navigate to that specific page, and that page only,
Yeah.
that cookie will get sent. And it will like take precedence over any other cookie.
Yeah.
So
So,
now-
with our self-XSS, if I understand correctly, we have, let's say we have it under the /page,
Yeah,
target.com/page. So we can execute our JavaScript there. So we set a cookie there with attacker's session and only under the /page.
Yeah.
So now the victim is only logged into our account on /page. Is that
also,
correct?
our XSS doesn't have to be on /page.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, in this case it is because that's the page we're trying to exploit. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, we just set the cookie there.
Yeah.
And now the other part of the attack, once we set the cookie there, we have some technique that we're gonna discuss in a bit.
Yeah.
That we use to log the victim out of the attacker's account. Because then, if like after a week, they try to use the application and they're suddenly in the attacker's account, it's very weird.
Yeah, it is.
It raises a red flag. So we use some technique that we're gonna discuss like now.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, let's do this.
So it's called the cookie jar overflow. So basically the browser, every browser, the number is a bit different, but the browser has a limited amount of cookies that it can have at a time.
Yeah.
So I think it's less than 300, I think. So it's called the cookie jar size. And the idea is, currently in the exploit, the victim is logged into our attacker's account.
Yeah.
So what we do, we try to clear all of the cookies that the victim has.
Yeah.
Okay? And that will log them out of our account.
Yeah.
So what we do, we can just set a ton of cookies in the browser.
Yeah.
And then the browser will have so many cookies that it will run out of space. And when it runs out of space, it clears the old cookies that it has.
Yeah.
So what we do, we basically set like 300 cookies. Then it forgets all of the cookies that it had in the past.
Yeah.
And then we can, after we've set all of those cookies, we can clear them out because we don't need them anymore. And now the cookie jar is just empty.
Yeah.
So the way it actually looks, I have a small demo here. We're currently in example.com, and I'm gonna set like a test value. So if I look at the document cookie, we have a few cookies here, A equals B and test equals value. Now if I run this code snippet, it will set 300 cookies. And after we do that, the document.cookie will be a gigantic string, but you can see that the old cookies are just
Yeah.
forgotten.
There's no A equals B or
There's no
test equals
equals
value.
or B. Yeah, exactly. And now after we've done that, we can clear all of the cookies that we set because we don't need them anymore. And now the document.cookie is just empty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we can set our cookie.
Yeah.
and
So
will
now
work.
after all of the cookies are empty,
Yeah.
the victim is logged out of our account. And then what we do in our like attack, now we set the malicious cookie with the path,
Yeah.
which is gonna be like the only cookie in the victim's browser at this point.
Because the state after the login CSRF was that the victim was completely logged into our account on every single endpoint. And what we want to do is like only have our session on one path.
Exactly.
So we have to like cancel all the cookies
Yes.
and then
So
set
the
our
order
cookie
here-
for the path.
The order here is like log them into our account, now they're logged in everywhere.
Yeah.
Now we just clear all of the cookies and they're not logged in anywhere.
Is it not a problem if the normal cookie, session ID, is HTTP only and the cookie we are setting is not? Is it not a problem?
So it's funny because it actually works anyways.
yeah.
Which is like that's why this sort of technique could be used as a way to like modify HTTP only cookies.
Oh yeah.
Okay, because when we clear the cookies, the browser clears out everything, even HTTP only cookies.
Yeah.
And because when the browser sends a cookie to the server,
Yeah.
the server only sees the cookie name and the value. It doesn't know if the cookie is HTTP only.
Yeah.
So we can like clear out all of the cookies, and then if we want, we can set a cookie that has like the same name as the HTTP only cookie that we're trying to override, and then the server will just read it as the cookie.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
this technique can be used as a way to override HTTP only cookies.
Yeah.
And now, the state that we're in currently in the attack is the victim is logged out of every account, any account, but in this specific page that we have the self-XSS in, they're still logged into our account because they have the session there. And now we just redirect them to some other domain, just get them off of the POC page, and the first stage of the POC is just over, basically.
Yeah.
Now, after like some time, the victim tries to use the application. And now they notice that they're logged out of their account because we just logged them out of their account. And they're also not logged into the attacker's account or anything weird like that because of the cookie jar overflow we used. And now, because they want to use the application, they try to, they log into their account. And now the situation that we have is on every endpoint of the application, they're logged into their account.
Yeah.
Except for the specific endpoint where we set the path.
Yeah.
And now the next time they navigate to that page, if it's like a page that is commonly navigated to, our XSS will get triggered because they're still logged into our attacker's account in that specific page. And now we can just exploit the rest of the application because it's all in the victim's account.
Yeah, we
And
got to a state where like, it's
and
like a
we have
normal
regular
XSS.
Yeah, normal XSS at
Yeah,
this
but
point.
it's super interesting to have like the victim wait a few days and just log into the account, part of the attack scenario.
That's the part I loved about this attack.
Yeah.
It's sort of fragmented. Right?
Yeah.
You have the first stage where you carefully shape the whole environment.
Yeah.
Right? And then you can wait like a few years and then the next time the victim logs in, which is gonna happen at some point, like that's not even user interaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Point. And because as the attacker, you're like hands off at this point, you're just waiting.
Yeah.
You're just going to exploit other victims. At this point, you just wait for the victim to navigate to the page, which is gonna happen sometime.
Yeah.
And then, and like log into their account, and then the attack. Once the victim logs into their account and navigates to their page, that's like the final stage of the attack. That's when you exploit everything.
Yeah, I think it might be the reason why this technique wasn't, at least not common, maybe used, but not common.
Don't think of it
because
that way.
yeah, it's hard. You thought out of the box to think, okay, here is my attack, and here a few days later is my exploit actually working, and like we usually are confined to the
because
to the exploit.
I didn't get there immediately. The first sort of attack scenario, which I knew is pretty trash, but it was like a stepping point, is like, okay, I have this cookie set here. Now how do I make the victim logged into their account in every other page? I have them log in. But so the first like thing I thought about was, just asking them, hey, can you please log into your account? But then it's just basically you can do phishing at that point because it's a ton of interaction.
And we can set the cookies for a few years.
We can't ask them to log in during the exploit.
Yeah.
So the solution I've thought of for that is to have them log in like on their own at some other point, and we just prepare the exploit so that when they log in, it will get triggered after some time. So this is like the simplest scenario where we have a self-XSS in like the edit profile page or some page that gets visits all the time.
Yeah. But it was not the case of your bug.
It was not the case in my bug. In my bug, what I did, I had, because it was on some random page with some UUID in the URL, the victim was never going to navigate there on their own. I had to find some way to use my my sort of access to the app, because I had like when you have JavaScript execution, even if it's on your attacker's account, you have like a special level of access there.
Yeah.
So I had to find a way to abuse that level of access to make them, the next time they log in, make them navigate to my attack page.
Yeah. How did you do it?
So the way I did it in that application, which I'm not gonna mention which one it is, but in that application, I started looking for cookies that make the victim get redirected somewhere.
Yeah.
So when I looked at the login flow, the way it worked there, if you navigated to some page, like app.com/edit profile, it will redirect you to the login page.
Okay.
But they wanted to have it so that after you log in, you will get redirected back to the edit profile page. So the way they did it is they set some cookie that holds the URL of the page that you're gonna like come back to after you log in.
Yeah.
And I found that cookie. It took me a while to find it, but once I did, I thought I could maybe, in my attack, set that cookie, like when I have just execution on the attacker's account,
Yeah.
I can set that cookie
Yeah.
and set it so that the next time it is sort of read by the server,
Yeah.
it will redirect the victim to the page where I have XSS.
Yeah. So
The random
we
page-
don't need more interaction from the.
the random page that they don't have, that they're
Yeah.
never gonna navigate to anyways.
Yeah.
So when I set it, I had to make sure that it has a specific path, so it will take precedence,
Yeah.
like we just talked
Yeah,
about earlier. So the way the whole attack looked at this point, a first step is like having the victim navigate to a malicious page.
Yeah.
Now that malicious page automatically logs them into the attacker's account, which
Yeah.
is the first gadget we need, a login CSRF. And then it it clears all of the cookies
Yeah.
with the cookie jar, which works on every site. That's not something specific that we need.
Yeah.
Then we set the session cookie, which also works on every site.
Yeah.
Session cookie with a specific path on the the page where we have self-XSS. Then I also set the sort of redirect cookie.
Yeah. This we only need if our XSS is on
Yeah.
somewhere exotic.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a gadget that we need in
Yeah.
case our self-XSS is in somewhere where they're not.
But if you only have like the first four you have, we can just exploit most self-XSSs in this
most.
way, and this is amazing because like
because now you've
we
taken,
just have a great
Yeah.
impact of a self-XSS.
you've just fixed the conventional way,
Yeah.
because the conventional way you exploit self-XSS, it sort of has an issue because you can't impact integrity easily.
Yeah.
And we've just fixed that because on most sites, the self-XSS that you exploit like in the conventional way, it's probably gonna be on some page that's gonna regularly be visited.
Awesome. Thank you so much for walking us through.
Yeah, it was fun.
Looking forward to more of your bags. You're absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So it was great having you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
If you'd like to listen to more Matan's techniques, check out his interview in the Critical Thinking podcast. And if you want to level up your DevTools game, check out the 4-part DevTools course that is in BBR Premium Archive. For now, thank you for watching and goodbye.